And probably the most confusing thing to all of us are mortgage rates. Now, there have been a lot of my friends that have lost their careers trying to guess where mortgage rates are going. So I'm not going to try to give you any projections as to where mortgage rates are headed, but I do want to try to explain to you why they're so high. For over 50 years, there's a spread. There's a 10-year Treasury yield, and then there's like a little spread, something that's added to that by the banking industry to form the mortgage rate. That's their piece of the mortgage rate that they get to keep. All right. And for 50 years, that number averaged out to be 1.72%. So whatever the 10-year Treasury yield was, if you added 1.72% to the top of that, that would be your mortgage rate. Well, the challenge is, starting from the beginning of this year, we've blown that 1.72% away. We started the year 1 point above that, meaning mortgage rates were 1 point above where they would normally be. And right now, as of this recording, where we stand is we're over 3 percentage points above that. Almost double what the normal rate was. So that's one of the reasons that mortgage rates are so high. And this is very, very rare, ladies and gentlemen. The only times the spread, and this is from 𝘕𝘬𝘬𝘭𝘵, the chief economist at KCM, the only times the spread approached or exceeded 300 basis points, think of that as 3%. 300 basis points would be like 3% in our lingo, were during periods of high inflation or economic volatility, like those seen in the early 1980s or the great financial crisis of 2008 and 2009. Now, at KCM, we like to give you visuals, not just the quotes, so you can show this to your consumers so they can very easily understand what you're saying to them. Is this rare, what we're going through right now? Oh, most definitely. Here's a visualization of what George just said. Very rarely does the spread jump above 3, but we're in one of those times right now. And that, again, is the reason rates are so high. Now, it's reasonable, this is from 𝘕𝘬𝘬𝘭𝘵, the Deputy Chief Economist at First American, it's reasonable to assume that the spread, and therefore mortgage rates, will retreat in the second half of the year if the Fed takes its foot off the monetary tightening pedal and provides investors with more certainty. However, it's unlikely that the spread will return to its historic average of 170 basis points, as some risks are here to stay. I don't want you to get confused. Most economists use the 170 number. If you continue it out through this year, it jumps up to 172. But it's the same theory. It's about 170. And right now, that's not where we're at. We're over 3. What does that mean? Well, here's a graph explaining it. As of this recording, the 10-year Treasury yield was 3.65%. That's one of the components that makes up the mortgage rate. The orange is the spread. If we were at normal spreads, we'd have a 5.37% mortgage rate right now. You know what the market would be like if rates went down to 5.37%? It would be crazy. But we're at a 3.2 number. And that means rates are touching 7. Jumped over 7, jumped below. And again, there's a couple of days before you're going to hear this, so I'm not sure where they're going to be when you hear it. But as of June 2nd, this is what winds up taking place. Even if as 𝘕𝘬𝘬𝘭𝘵 suggested, that the spread's not going to go back to 1.72, even if it went back to more than a half a point higher than that, at 2.25, we'd still have mortgage rates under 6%. And that's the key, ladies and gentlemen. Under 6%, in my humble opinion, will cause a frenzy in the market. So we have to know that relief is coming soon, and we have to explain to consumers why the rates are so high right now. And that's what we just try to do. Because it's important that we get in front of everyone we possibly can and explain to them. We don't have to explain to them how important home ownership is. Americans get that. As a matter of fact, this is National Home Ownership Month. And if you want any help with that in putting this on your social media posts or in your emails, please, as a member, you have access to all the new reasons to own images now in your member area. Please use those images. They are unbelievably well done by the team at KCM. Use them as much as you possibly can to promote National Homeownership Month. The financial benefits of homeownership, let's go over them pretty quickly. Building equity, building family wealth, building generational wealth, control over the expenses. Yeah, buying a house right now is a little more expensive than renting one. Wait 5 years and see what happens. Your mortgage payment will be about the same. Your rent payment definitely won't be. Long-term savings. Every time you pay a mortgage, and my grandfather used to say this to me, he would write mortgage on one little slip of paper, and he would write rent payment on the other. And he would take the mortgage, the one that said mortgage, and he would fold it up and put it in his wallet. He said, every time you make a mortgage payment, you're putting money in the bank because you get that money back at the end. And then he would take the rent payment and he would crumble it up and throw it in a waste paper basket. That money you're throwing away. If you want to build your wealth, own a home. If you want to build your landlord's wealth, rent a home. Again, building wealth through the building equity and gives you a strong credit history. Social benefits of homeownership, and we have to talk more about this, ladies and gentlemen. We sometimes get so caught up in the money that we don't realize that's really not the reason people buy and sell houses. Their life changes. Civic participation, financial education, the health benefits of owning a home, the privacy of having your own place. You could do the property improvements. If your son decided he wanted to paint his bedroom black, go for it. If you're in a rental, that ain't going to happen. And now you could even have a home office. You have that set up. And there's tax benefits of homeownership also. There's the mortgage interest rate deduction, the property tax deduction, the imputed rent, meaning we're saving the money that we're not paying on rent. Like people tell me, well, if I didn't have a mortgage payment, I would take all that money and put it into the bank. Well, yeah, would you live in your car? You still have a housing expense. And you're right, the housing expense, if you're renting right now, might be a little bit less than what it is to buy a house at this particular moment in time. But push it out 5 years, push it out 10 years, and let's see. And then, of course, very obviously, ladies and gentlemen, if you stay in your house, equity is unbelievable. Right now, the average equity in the United States is somewhere around $300,000 per house. If someone sells the house right now, they make about $300,000. Now, I'm not sure because I haven't talked to a lot of landlords lately, but if he sells his house that you're renting, I don't think he gives you any of that money. I think he keeps it. Now, again, homeownership remains the number one feature of the American dream. Owning a home, and this actually has me a little bit nervous about how people think about homeownership. They think owning a home is more important than being able to retire. They think owning a home is more important as far as the American dream is concerned than a successful career. They think owning a home is more important than a college degree. America is built, the American dream is built on home ownership. And let's not forget that the people we talk to believe that. As a matter of fact, the Mint Consumer Insights report that just came out said 78% of Americans associate home ownership with the American dream. So anyone that's telling you, well, I think that home ownership is not really considered the American dream anymore, they're wrong. Ask them where they got their numbers from. Because almost every survey every survey shows the vast majority of Americans think it. And almost every survey says 3 out of 4 Americans believe it. 65% see homeownership as a means of building intergenerational wealth. Now, what about the young people? The young people, they're a renter society. They want to rent their car. They want to rent this. Well, let's back that up for a second. Where are you getting the numbers from? Because according to this Consumer Insights report, 68% of millennials and Gen Z say investing in real estate is a smart financial decision. And 43% of millennials and Gen Z are considering buying an investment property. Don't let people that have opinions that are not backed up by anything sway your opinion that is backed up by numbers. Show them the numbers and ask them for theirs. Gallup does this every single year. America's opinion of what is the best long-term investment. This has been a rough year for real estate. The mortgage rates are up, the mortgage payments are up. But still, in 2023, real estate was seen as the best long-term investment. Even better than gold that is skyrocketing right now because of the recession fears. And ladies and gentlemen, real estate has been voted the best long-term investment for 11 consecutive years. Americans believe in home ownership. What you sell, they want to buy. But, and it's a big but, all the negative headlines that came out last fall, well, we're going to have another housing crash. It's going to be like 2008 all over again. Prices are going to fall 20, 25%. They were all wrong. But the impact of all those statements affected the American consumer. This is going, at the end of December, each of these years, the number of Americans who thought that prices were going to go down over the next 12 months. So these are December readings, going all the way back to 2010, the first year they ever did this reading, or took this survey. And while we could see that in 2010, 2011, as we were still getting through the financial crisis, those numbers jumped up to 18, 17%. But then it came back down and things were okay and things seemed to be fine. Then all of a sudden in 2022, it skyrocketed to 37%, the highest number ever recorded, and almost doubled the next highest number. That's because there was so much there's so many negative headlines last year. Very prominent economists, very prominent global banks were saying the prices were going to fall off the edge of the cliff. But it didn't happen. Yet, these numbers got better. As we saw coming into this year, the real estate market didn't crash. The real estate market didn't say, oh my God, it's over. No, the word that everyone seems to be using is, we can't believe how resilient it's been. But ladies and gentlemen, consumers, it's gotten a little bit better. Now only 31% think prices are going to go down in the next 12 months in March, and that number just went up last month. April's the last month we have our numbers for. May numbers aren't out yet. So what we're saying, ladies and gentlemen, 1 out of 3 Americans still think that prices are going to fall this year over the next 12 months. We have to make sure that they understand that that's not true. That's our mission right now, that they understand that. So let's go right into home prices and what is actually going to happen. First of all, part of the questioning comes from the median home price. The median home price is meaningless. It's meaningless. That's the number that NAR reports. That's the number like Redfin and some other companies report on. It's the quickest number to get. You get that number instantaneously. And in normal markets for 25 years, that was a decent number to look at. But in a very volatile market, it's the worst number to look at. Again, it has no importance or value in today's real estate market. None. As a matter of fact, 𝘕𝘠𝘬𝘠 from Calculated Risk, who's always been promoting the median price as a good way to take a look at pricing, just came out the other day and said median prices are distorted by the mix and repeat sales indexes like Case-Shiller and FHFA are probably better for measuring prices. The repeat sales there's a lag on it because it takes some time to get all the numbers together. But they say this is what this house is now worth, not what the median price is. The median price is just the middle price. As we are selling less expensive houses, the median price, the middle number, is going down. And Bill's not the only one saying that. The Center for Real Estate Studies at Wichita State University, the median sales price measures the middle price of homes that sold, meaning that half of the homes sold for a higher price and half sold for less. It is not very useful for measuring home price appreciation because it is affected by the composition of homes that sold. If more lower price houses sell, the median price goes down. It doesn't mean that any house is worth less money. As a matter of fact, in their example, they discuss this market exactly. For example, if more lower priced homes have sold recently, the median sales price would decline because the middle home is now a lower priced home, even if the value of each individual home is rising. That's our market. There are more lower priced homes being sold. The median sales price is declining. It ticked up last month. But even if the value of each individual home is rising, what they're saying is we're in a market where the median price is going down and regular prices, the real price, is going up. Your consumer might have a tough time understanding that. So please take this with you. Put it on a card in your pocket until you really get it down. Here's a simple way to explain median value. Let's assume you have 3 coins in your pocket. Line them up in ascending value, lowest to highest. If you have 1 nickel and 2 dimes in your pocket, the median value of the coins, the middle one, again, if you have 1 nickel and 2 dimes would be nickel, dime, dime. The middle one is 10 cents. So your median value, the median value of the coins in your pocket is 10 cents. If you have 2 nickels and 1 dime in your pocket, line them up, nickel, nickel, dime, the median value of the coins in your pocket is now 5 cents because there's a nickel in the middle. In both cases, a nickel is still worth 5 cents and a dime is still worth 10 cents. It didn't change the value of the coin. It changed the median value because the group of coins in your pocket changed. The value of each coin didn't change. In today's housing market, we are selling more of the less expensive homes, thus driving down the median price. It doesn't accurately reflect the value of each house. We're talking about the median price. So now let's take an accurate look at home price movement. What is really happening with prices? Again, remember, last fall, people were saying it's going to fall 5 to 10%. Some were saying it's going to fall 15 to 20%. Some were saying it was going to fall 20 to 25%. Part of the reason that people are not putting the house on the market, they still remember those headlines. Part of the reason people are not buying right now because they still remember those headlines. We have to counter those headlines in a big way. So let's take a look. Case-Shiller. Repeat sales, meaning accurate. Not fast, meaning is quick. Repeat sales indexes are accurate. So you have to decide, do I want to be quick or do I want to be right? At KCM, we're not worried about quickness. We're worried about giving the right information. So in Case-Shiller, here we go. It's a lag. It's only March. The April numbers aren't out yet. But we could see what happened. The beginning of last year, things were taking off and we were just flying high. Then in July, things came crashing down. Interest rates went up. It looked like all of a sudden there was going to be a ton load of listings coming to the market. Didn't happen, but some people were projecting that. And all of a sudden, all these negative headlights came out. And prices did start to fall. And people will start saying it's going to keep on cascading worse and worse and worse. Well, that didn't happen. The worst month was August. And it seems to be balancing back out now. And the last 2 months, according to Case-Shiller, are showing positive, not negative. So month over month, the percent change in home values, seasonally adjusted, is showing that we might be past the worst of it. Remember, back in 2008, it took us 6 years, almost 6 years, for prices to come back to a positive. Here we're talking about 6 months. So Case-Shiller says prices are stabilizing. What does the FHFA say? Prices are stabilizing. They look at a slightly different set of data, so the numbers are slightly different, but the overall trend is exactly the same. We had a rough second half of last year, and now we're coming back. Well, what does CoreLogic say? CoreLogic says prices are stabilizing. Same thing, ladies and gentlemen. Same trend. Again, they look at slightly different sets of data, so the numbers aren't exactly the same, but look at the trend. As a matter of fact, let's put all 3 of them together and look at the trends. They're all saying the same thing. The 3 most reputable indexes, home price indexes, are all saying the same thing. We had a great first half of 2022. We had a rough second half. And now we're on our way back. Then we're not sure that everything's going to be green from this point forward. We'll keep you abreast of that. But that cascading down, that falling off a cliff, that 20, 25%, I can pretty much guarantee you that we're not going to come anywhere near those numbers. We might end this year on a positive. Now, for more support, Zillow, and I know some of you say half the people in this call think that Zillow is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and the other half think it's the devil incarnate. I get that there's a split amongst realtors on that. But as additional information for people who like Zillow, they see the same thing. Good first half of last year, bad second half, and we're coming back. What does Fannie Mae say? Now, they do it quarterly, not month over month. They do it quarter over quarter. But what do they say? Same thing. Great first half of a great 2021, then a great first half of 2022, then the second half we fell off, and the first quarter we're back up again. Second quarter numbers are not out. So this is pretty interesting. Remember I said Back in 2008, it took us almost 6 years for the bars to turn green again. Here, it took 6 months, 2 quarters. Now, this is going to be difficult for me because I know there are people on this call that lost loved ones during the pandemic. So did I. But we have to talk positively from a housing standpoint about those 2 years. But it's difficult for me to talk positively about a time when so many people suffered. So instead of saying pandemic, and the World Health Organization has said that, well, it's over. The Biden administration said pretty much we're cutting off some of the programs because it's pretty much over. And I know there are still people sick, and I know there are people still dying. But the American people have pretty much put the pandemic in the rearview mirror. And I don't want to keep on using that word when I'm talking about the good years of real estate. So I've decided to change the word. I've decided to make it the unicorn years. Why? Because it was different. It's my attempt, KCM's attempt, to disconnect the benefits of the strong housing market from the second quarter of 2020 to the second quarter of 2022, from the pain so many experienced during that time. And again, I know there are people on this call that lost loved ones. And again, so did I. That's why we came up with the unicorn years, to make that separation. Now, let's take a look, because people are going to tell you, well, things are off this year. They're not as good as they were. Well, yeah, but what are we comparing them to? Well, in 2022, appreciation dropped to 5%. It was 18% the year. Whoa. You're comparing it to the unicorn years, the 2 greatest years in American real estate history. An anomaly, something that wasn't supposed to happen. For 200 years, we sold real estate, this is a metaphor, we sold real estate riding a horse. And we were fine. We would ride the horse up and down the street and we would sell the houses. And then all of a sudden, something happened that we never thought would happen. We saw a unicorn. And we jumped aboard that unicorn. And for 2 great years, we rode that unicorn. And it was exciting. But one day we got down off the unicorn and went into the bar, and we came out and the unicorn was gone. It galloped away. And the only thing still left, tied to the little stand there, were horses. We're back on horses again. That's not a bad thing. It's normal. That's what we rode for 200 years. But people keep on wanting to compare what's happening now to the unicorn years. That's not right. Let's compare what's happening now to the other normal years before the unicorn years. Well, home appreciation is about the same. Pending listings, funny, about the same. Now people say, oh, pending listings are way down. Whoa. Compared to the unicorn years, of course. Well, that's about showing traffic, the number of people out there looking at houses. Well, it's way down from, the unicorn years. I get it. But if we look to the more normal years of 17, 18, 19, and 20, actually the number of buyers out there are up. And we know that because we see the lines outside of our open houses. But yet the papers are reporting, well, the headlines are, buyer traffic is way. No, calm down. We can't compare it to the unicorn years. Let's stop the silliness. It makes no sense. Well, how about median days on the market? That's way up. Way up from what? Oh, the unicorn years? Yeah, I get it. But if we look back to 17, 18, 19, and 20, we're still selling houses faster now than we did in any of those normal years. Let's make sure we're talking about, we want to compare this to the normal years, not the unicorn years. Homes for sale. Well, inventory's up. That must mean we're in a bad market. There's more houses for sale. Well, calm down. What do you compare? Oh, you're comparing it to the unicorn years. I get it. Well, let's compare it instead to the normal years prior to the unicorn. Now, the reason 2020 was as good as it was, we started, if you remember, 2020 off like a bang. We finished 2019 really strong, and we had tremendous listings. These are May of each year because we want to compare the same month. By May, a lot of those listings had fallen off, but we had started with so many, it didn't drop any more than the 927. But even if we compare it to that, all right? We're still way short on listings. If an agent walked up to me today and said, what's the best thing I could possibly do right now? I'd say, go get a listing. Go get a listing. Do whatever you have to do to get a listing. We'll talk about that in a second. Because rates, first of all, the 10-year Treasury will come down some, probably by the end of the year. That's what everyone's projecting. And the spread will come down some. And ladies and gentlemen, if that mortgage rate drops down to 6%, you think you have an inventory challenge now? You're going to have people lined up at your open houses around 4 blocks, not 1 block. Well, Steve, there's less listings, but there's also less buyers, so I don't know if that... Well, let's look at the ratio then. That's called months inventory. I don't have the May number because that's reported by NARS. This is the April number. Well, the months inventory... Yeah, the months inventory is up. From when? The unicorn years. You get it? If we go to 17, 18, 19, and 20, they're not up. They're down. We need listings. Desperately. And again, the realtors on this call already know that. But we have to use these slides, we have to use this information to educate the public because the experts have it all wrong. And I feel bad for them. They're using models that they've used for hundreds of years to judge what's going to happen next. They never had unicorn years to compare it to anything to. So their models are, I'm not going to say garbage, but my vocabulary is limited, and I don't know what's a softer word than garbage, but it would be a synonym. Let's not worry about what the headlines say, except for the fact that consumers are reading them. Let's make sure on our social media, let's make sure on our emails, let's make sure on our blogs, let's make sure on our videos, let's make sure we're putting out the right information. Not Pollyanna stuff, accurate stuff. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a tug of war. Tug of war, there's 2 sides of the rope. And then there's a red ribbon right in the middle. And then there's a mark on the ground. And the red ribbon starts in the middle, right on the mark. I'm not trying to drag people over to the positive side, to the Pollyanna side. Well, but what I do know is there's 5,000 people on the negative side pulling. I need help on this side, not to drag people over to Pollyanna land, to keep the ribbon in the middle, because the negative headlines are pulling it toward the negative. Need your help. That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm on this month, MMR. We need your help now, today. And by the way, you're going to hear these headlines too. Well, foreclosures are increasing. So here we go. Now I told you this was going to happen. Recession's coming, unemployment, and oh my God, we're looking at foreclosure. What are you comparing them against? Oh yeah, the unicorn years. Ladies and gentlemen, every year we have foreclosures in this country. People get sick. People can't pay their medical bills. People die. People get divorced. People lose their job. They can't afford to pay their mortgages anymore. We help many of those people before they ever get to foreclosure. But still some foreclosures happen every year. During the 2 unicorn years, of course, there was a lot less. Just in case you forgot, there was a moratorium. They weren't allowed to foreclose on houses. So now, as that thing settles out and the moratorium worked, because there's not a run of foreclosures now, they helped a lot of families stay in their houses during difficult times. Difficult times financially, difficult times from a health perspective. We help families stay in those houses too. So will the foreclosures go back to normal years? Yep. Will people start screaming at, oh, look at the percentage increase? Yeah. But they'll be comparing them against what? The unicorn years. It's important. It's important that we get out and speak to people. Good friend of mine, Mark Davison from 1000 Mart. They did a survey of people that were thinking about selling their house. And they asked them, if you were thinking about selling your house and you talked to a realtor, what impact did that have? And almost 2 out of 3 who desired to sell their home within 6 months were more inclined to do so after speaking to an agent. 2 out of 3, the chances of them listing their house increase if an agent talks to them. Guess what I'm going to suggest you do? Go talk to a lot of people. If we know that we just by speaking the truth can move people into getting on with their lives. Well, Steve, who's going to want to sell if they have a 3% mortgage? Well, I don't know. Let's assume that a young couple bought a condo over a pizzeria. It was a mixed-use place because it was a great walking score. They could walk to the Whole Foods. They could walk across the street to that little bodega, and everything was cool. So they're living there, and they're living beautifully. They just found out they're pregnant with twins. Guess what they're doing with their one-bedroom condo? They're selling it. That young professional woman who finally been living in New York and working hard for the last 5 years, finally got the job of her dreams. But it's in San Francisco. Guess what she's going to do with a home in New York? She's going to sell it. Because her life is more important than the interest rate. A retired couple who's finally is going to get the chance to move down south or move out west where their grandchildren are. This is what I know because I'm a grandparent. Part of the reason grandparents want to be by their grandchildren, they don't trust their children to raise them right. So, of course, that's a little bit of a joke, but every joke has some truth to it. That's why it's funny. So what winds up taking place is there's going to be a retired couple that are going to want to move near their grandchildren. Do you think that the love of their grandchildren is less important than a 3% interest rate? Of course it's not. Let's get out and start talking to people. Let's let them know that, hey, listen, if they buy real estate right now, it's not going to crash. Things are good. If they buy a house right now, 3 things can happen with mortgage rates. They could go up, and thank God they bought now. They could stay the same, and there's no problem except for the fact it looks like prices are going back up, so they might pay more. Or they could go down. And they have the opportunity to refinance if that happens. Let's start talking to people more and more. It matters. So now, 90-day agent plan. Attack the median price headlines. When you know the NAR report is going to come out the next day, and NAR's not wrong in reporting median prices. They've done it for years and years and years and years. But what people do with that information, it's not criminal, but it's whatever word is next to criminal with their headlines. Attack median prices and do it the day before. Let people know there's going to be crazy headlines tomorrow. Talk month-over-month prices, not year-over-year prices. Remember, last May, June, July, they were unicorn months for us. The highest prices in American real estate history. So of course this June, July, and August are going to be a little bit below those. And people are going to think that prices are down. No, they're not. Let me give you an example. San Francisco, year-over-year prices are down 11%. That's the headline. People say, well, I'm not going to buy in San Francisco. Prices are crashing. Well, except for the fact that month-over-month, they're up almost 1%. Actually, 0.07%. Okay? So 0.7%, I should say. So what do we have here? We have a place in San Francisco that they've hit the bottom and they're coming back up. That sounds like the bottom of the market to me. When do you want to buy? At the bottom of the market. But we have to talk month-over-month prices for people to realize that. Get on the phone, ladies and gentlemen. Cold call. Get back to door knocking. Go meet people. I know we've had a lot of success using Zoom over the last couple of years, but there's nothing better than talking to someone face-to-face. And at the end of this month, realize there's going to be a ton of listings expiring. Because the agents didn't list them right from the beginning. There are going to be people that their listings expired, or they're going to see that the mortgage rates maybe came down and they're going to try on their own. Have an expired listing plan. Have a FSBO plan ready to go by the end of this month. July 1st is going to be a big time for expired listings and FSBOs. Put your plans together for those. And since you're not going to hear the July edition until after July 4th, figure out what your July 4th promotion is going to be. Are you going to be the agent that puts that little flag on everybody's lawn? So when in the morning when people come out, they say, I wonder who did that. And don't put your card on the flag. Make them talk to each other until they figure it out. That's what's important, ladies and gentlemen. Let people know you care. Not that you care about your money. Of course you do, I get that. But that you care about them. And this is a beautiful business. This is a phenomenal business. Of course, if you forget about the money and only worry about the person sitting on the other side of the table from you, whether it's a buyer or a seller, if you only worry about that and help them, you make money. Matter of fact, it's the only way to make money is to help families. Help individuals. Help people that are thinking about buying and selling. That's how we make money in this industry. And if you're looking for something to use as like a lead gen, the KCM crew did an unbelievable job putting together both the summer buyer and seller guides. They're now available. Go in, download them. They're tremendous lead gens. Put it on your website that if they contact you, you'll get them this magazine. Take a look at it yourself. You'll see the quality of it. If you haven't been using this tool in the past, shame on you. It's a phenomenal tool. Let's get out there and get the information out to the people. This is one way we help you do that. I want to end talking about something that we don't normally talk about. It's important to all of us. We signed our name to it, and that's the Code of Ethics. Every one of us, dependent on the state, either had to take a class or take a series of classes to understand what the ethical responsibility of being a realtor was. And then we signed our name to it. We signed our given name, and then we signed our family name. And I know about your family. In my family name is pretty important. Our given name gives us individuality. Our family name gives us tradition. And in most of our families, thank God, tradition is we work hard and we tell the truth. You signed your family name. The four most important words in the Code of Ethics, first of all, is code. It's standards we adhere to by an individual or group. It's a code we live by. Ethics, moral principles that govern a person's behavior. How ethical are we? And I'm not talking about sins of commission, I'm talking about sins of omission. If we're not out there trying to let people know that the real estate market's fine and that they could move forward with their dreams, that's a sin of omission if you're not doing that. Not ethical. And then responsibility, a state of accountability. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's hold ourselves accountable. Because that word responsibility appears in the Code of Ethics 16 times. It's not just something they just kind of threw in there. 16 separate times that word appears. And then duty, a moral obligation to perform. That's the definition. The word duty appears 31 times. We have a moral obligation to help people right now. A moral obligation that gives us the responsibility to help people right now. Because we signed off on a code that we would live by, saying we're people of ethics. First name, family name. Let's make sure we live up to both. Thank you very much. Need your help. KCM needs your help. Let's get out there. Let's do what we need to do. And until next time, please work hard and understand. If you're worried about the money, the only way to make money in this business is to help people. If you're worried about the people, the only way to help the people is to help the people. Thank you very much, guys. See you next time.